Hi, I'm Eric Ciampoli, host of Manufacturing Roundtable. Today we are joined by Nobu Yamanashi of Yama Seafood. Nobu has carried forward a legacy setting the highest standards in seafood quality and distribution, trusted by some of the most demanding chefs in the world. He's bringing insight to what it takes to maintain excellence in a competitive industry. I hope you find this conversation useful. Let's jump in. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Eric Ciampoli, creator of Manufacturing Roundtable podcast. We have our guest today here, Nobu Yamanashi, president of Yama Seafood Inc. here in Jersey City, New Jersey. He's a second generation member of his family business that's built around supplying Michelin star rated restaurants and world class chefs all around the area with the highest quality seafood possible. Thank you, Nobu, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it was like growing up in the family business and learning from your dad.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm just like any kid growing up, but I guess I was accustomed to or introduced to high quality seafood at a young age, and I guess, was normalized at a young age versus what that actually should have been, like a toro or an uni or a kura or caviar, for that example. But yeah, I mean, just like any other kids growing up, I got two brothers. We were 2 years apart both directions. I'm a middle child. Um, I actually born in the States, but my parents only spoke Japanese to us, so we didn't really learn English until I guess when I was in kindergarten, and we went to ESL and learn English as a second language or something like that. That's why I always joke to my wife. Remember, English is my second language. Uh, whenever she wants to make a comment.
Same in my household.
But yeah, it's just same. Played a lot of sports growing up. Um, got to go to Japan a lot as a kid, as a family, like almost every summer. We would spend like a month, or a month or longer in the summer times because obviously we didn't have schools and whatnot.
Yeah, what part of Japan does your family come from?
My mom's from Tokyo, Oizumi area, and my dad's from Shizuoka area. So it's near Mount Fuji.
Beautiful area.
Oh yeah. So we would stay at my mom's parents on my grandparents' side, on my mother's side, for like a month or so, and then yeah, we'll do a lot of the summers there growing up. And I think when I was in elementary school, they actually allowed us to attend the school at a local elementary school. Like we would have to do like a international student experience where we were there for like doing summer class with Japanese kids as like second, third, fourth graders, um, and just experience that because I think in summers in Japan start later, and they actually have a much shorter summer break anyways than we do in America. And so that was like amazing trying to experiencing what a Japanese school was like, understanding like your outside shoes and inside shoes. You have to take care of your own. Like there's no like janitors. It's like you just take care of the school yourself, right? So everybody had their roles and duties that you rotate around. So someone's on floor duty, someone's on bathroom duty, someone's on um, outside duties. It's a very different. It was very cool seeing that cultural differences coming from an American school where there's less of that. People are paid to just clean up after you and, mop the floors and take the garbage out. And, and then, you just don't make a mess. You have your outside shoe that you keep outside and you have your inside shoes so you avoid tracking dirt and mud in. And yeah, you're responsible to clean up after yourself. That's just kind of rooted in you in Japan culturally.
Yes, I'm very aware. It's like that in much of Asia. It's the United States that doesn't follow those type of self discipline and teaching children from an early age that they're responsible for their share of the family community.
Right. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it has changed nowadays, but still, like it was really cool seeing that and then making friends, um, and just being a kid in Japan, just like I lived there. So that was cool. Um, but yeah, and then just growing up in the family business, seeing all the people that I now still currently work with, even though I was a kid, like in diapers and just running around, in the warehouse, on the weekends when no one's there, just drawing all over the walls and stuff like that. Uh, to come in full circle and now, managing them and working with them, people that, obviously see me growing up a kid. It's really interesting, and obviously I'm very grateful that obviously these people have stuck it out and at our company that long. And yeah, it's been fun just kind of transitioning in from like a kid, just been around and known these people just as like, oh, you work with my dad, versus now we work together. So
Yeah, many family businesses, in my experience, a lot more often than you might realize, because more often the children don't choose to follow in the family business. They seek different career paths for whatever reason they choose, or they see the struggles their family has and they choose, you know what, I'll choose something else. Or sometimes even the family says, no, you don't want to do this. This is too much. What sparked your interest in saying, you know what, this is for me and this is what I want to do?
just like how you said, always it was never a duty. I know in Asian culture that's like it's your duty to take over the family heritage tradition, whatever, right? The business especially. My dad was always against that. It was more like on the other side. He's like, hey, why would you want to do this and wake up at midnight every single day? Have the responsibility on your shoulders of 50, 60, 70, 80 families, a couple hundred people that you're now responsible for. You can't just like check out. You can't just decide to quit and switch jobs. Um, so it was always kind of like you speak, he's like for him he didn't have a choice. It was kind of like the only way for him to stay in America and have some level of success versus he's like you guys, your brothers, you and your brothers all speak two languages. You're an American citizen. You guys all graduated colleges, and opportunity is endless for you guys. Just work a job at a company, have good benefits, and just, you don't, like live a more simple life rather than having this level of stress and, just chaos, I guess is what he always said it.
And what your dad may not have realized at the time is, America's built on the immigrant workforce ethic, and immigrants start the majority of the small businesses in America because of some of the reasons that your dad experienced. And they hustle it through and they make it happen. And then now you have a community of all these wonderful people that work together with you to keep that family legacy going and have hundreds and hundreds of happy customers, and building that long-term legacy that maybe your children will also choose to step into, or you'll find an ulterior format that works for you and your family.
Yeah, I mean, I think our company was built on immigrants, built from immigrants, brick by brick, and still supported and honestly run by mostly immigrants. Very few American born people like myself. Um, yeah, and it's just fortunately they've all are very dedicated and um, good at what they do, and to ensure that we continue on the legacy and how we came of succeed and survive in a very tough market like New York for 50 years. So.
Yes. And so what values would you say are lessons that you learned from your father that shape the way that you lead your groups today?
I mean, we have a lot of very different ideologies and thought process. But the core values or the core concepts that still remain today are like our basic principles, like show up early, right? Don't be late. That means like come 15 minutes early. That's always just kind of like like his habit of just saying come 15 minutes early to everything, right? Because your time is just as valuable as theirs, and you don't want to be late. And obviously, we provide a service, so just say, hey, I'm just 5 minutes late. What's the big deal to a delivery? If that thought process is acceptable, then that kind of transpires to everything that we do. Oh yeah, who cares? We're leaving 5 minutes later than usual. Who cares? We're 5 minutes late to a delivery. 5 minutes then becomes an hour, becomes 2 hours. Like, that. in our world where we're constantly fighting minutes and seconds, um, it matters. So that has to come from the beginning, right? So that for him, I've never seen him late to anything, like nothing. Like he's obsessively like, even like meals, like we're going to see a friend, a family to go to lunch or dinner or whatever. He's always half an hour, like obnoxiously, like ridiculous. Like, hey, you don't have to leave this early. We're just gonna sit somewhere. Like, we're just gonna be waiting for somebody. No, no, we gotta go. We gotta go.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah, and like, I mean, don't get me wrong, but he is so crazy about that like even we're just trying to get together as like some team members at a company for a lunch, and like the entire meal could be ruined because one individual showed up late without any notice and just walks in and just nonchalant about it, and he just kind of like it turns into a big deal afterwards. How could you let this happen? Like, and then not only is it that person's fault, but then it becomes the supervisor's fault and then my fault. How could you allow that behavior? Um, so, something that is like so, casual can turn into like a big deal. But in the core concept of it, like, yeah, we're at work physically when you're getting paid on the clock and stuff like that. Yes, where I still believe in, you know, of course, like there are things, right? Okay, so we have like a half an hour notification system. If you're gonna be late, then you have to notify, you know, over half an hour in advance for a reasoning, right? Not just saying you're running late because you woke up late and blah blah blah. No, that's unacceptable. Just stay home. If you walk in, you can't find parking. Like right now, there's no street parking in our warehouse area just because there's a lot of construction going on, and truck drivers have found out that there's street parking, so that they don't have to pay for a lot, so they're just leaving in there for the week. So that gets taking up all the street parking that you see in our facility. We can only fit like 15 cars in our lot, so now everybody has to park on the street. Now people are parking, like we have staff has to park like across the street, like walk 5 minutes, like but we all know that. So you don't use that as an excuse to be like, oh, I'm late because I couldn't find parking. Well, you and 25 other people suffered that same issue. So, I don't want to hear that excuse. It's just preparation, right? Oh, I don't want to hear about you got stuck in traffic. Okay, yeah, a road closure. Like you're not the only one. But if you had built in that 15-minute window, then yeah, you wouldn't have been late because you would have had a workaround. But if you're just operating on 2 3 minutes, then you're screwed. You hit a couple lights and you're done.
Yeah, that's absolutely. This is New Jersey. Google Maps says, 40-minute drive, but I always add 30 to 40 minutes just in case. I don't want to show up to a meeting late because you already start the meeting on the wrong terms on the wrong foot because you showed up late. And if you're going to be late, you let them know, hey, I'm not going to make it on time. I planned for an extra hour and that wasn't enough. Not, oh, I left with 10 minutes to spare. But, it happens, but you let them know and you be respectful of their time because they're waiting on you.
Exactly. So that's a big thing for my dad that I still instill on the people. I mean, it's literally part of our interview process and onboarding process, as well as greeting, right? So you come in, you say good morning. Like, don't just walk in with your headphones in, heads down, don't look at people, just walk into the locker room, get changed, and come back. Like, nah, it isn't. You gotta respect one another. We have customers walking in all the time. You're doing deliveries, whatever, right? You gotta have that habit of looking the person in the face in their eyes and say good morning, and just that something that is free, doesn't cost any money, doesn't do anything, doesn't that you don't have to exert any energy. We're not doing anything that's difficult. It's just basic human behavior. It feels good. You walk into a building and everyone says good morning to you, right? Like looks up at you and say, hey, good morning, sir, good morning, whatever it is. Versus like you walk through the warehouse and no one looks up, no one says a word to you. You're just like confused, whatever. It's just, you know, it's not it's just disrespectful and rude. And I've been in so many environments where it's like that. You walk into an office and it's just kind of like everyone's got their heads down, and why bother, right?
Yeah, even the secretary, you can't get their attention. Remember one of my favorite things about visiting Japan is no matter where you go, what store you walk into, unless you're walking onto the subway train, is there's a greeting by all the staff that's in there. They recognize that you walk into the store, and then you return the greeting and you nod your head in respect that they showed recognition to you entering their place of business.
Yeah, I mean, that's a habit that we instill because obviously deliveries, drivers, we don't have any visibility, right? So if they're not doing it here, you're not doing there. So you're gonna walk into a restaurant through the loading dock, just go to the kitchen and just drop it off and slap the invoice on the table and say sign it, or you're gonna say, hey, good morning, Yama Seafood, and just give the receiver a high five, a handshake, a fist bump, say how you doing today, whatever it is, just you know we all want that human interaction. So of course, just that simple good morning, just that little respect, right? Whether they give it back to you or not is a different story.
Yeah, but it's your responsibility first. And I've noticed that too. Even in retail stores, you walk up to the cash register and the person doesn't even raise their head. They take the product and they begin to scan it. And you're like, and sometimes I'll be like, I'm a different generation. And I'll be like, hello, how are you? And they're like, huh. I'm like, that's like you greet all your customers with this disrespect. Like, I could take my business anywhere. I can shop online and not even have to look at you. Like they don't even look up at you anymore when you try to connect with them. They dismiss you. It's unfortunate, but that's what makes your business unique is that you're driving that culture and all your employees and people who represent your brand is like, we want to connect with the customer because they're our customers. We're responsible for that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, we provide goods and services, right? So it's like you said, they can make a decision to go anywhere, anytime, any place, right? There's hundreds of Yama Seafoods out there, online and distributor wise. Like, you know, and we ain't the cheapest guy around, we're not the cheapest people. So it's like you decide because not only do you like the products, the quality, but the service, the timing, the communications, right? That all is a whole package that you're gonna get when you're working with us versus, if we're just purely transactional, then you just go for the cheapest price. Then what's the difference, right? Then we're competing with everybody else. Um, and yeah, who cares? Oh yeah, who cares? It's 6 o'clock in the afternoon delivery, but your stuff is the cheapest, right? So yeah, but we're not touting that. We're not doing that. So
And then it'll show up after opening time and then they're short on product.
exactly, so it's just, everything, like, we just start from the beginning, right? And then making sure things are done. We do what we can do to control it where we can physically control it, and then the rest is up to people executing it. But as long as, at the very least, if it's done on site, you know, then there is actually a chance that it's done off site when eyeballs aren't looking at you, when you're on your own, when you're doing your own thing, right? It's just, you hope that everybody can represent your brand and they can be proud to represent your brand and to translate that in a way that, obviously we want them to represent.
Absolutely. So, with all these principles and things that you were raised with, and all the hard work that your dad put into building the foundations, what's inspired you to carry the business forward and expand your reach?
Well, I mean, I talk about this. I've talked about this to my father numerous amount of times. I think when he came in the '70s, I firmly believe I would have never been able to build or start the business that he did, especially at that time. Um, when seafood business wasn't run by anyone that looked like us, right? It was, run by mobs, whatever, right? Seaport. Um, and to be able to withstand that and just say, I don't care, like, I'm gonna do it my way, and I'm not gonna do it the way it's been done, and whatever, right? It's like I'm gonna do the way I want it to do, how I want to do it. That's why I have my own business. Um, why did I join? Why did I want to join? I mean, I never really thought about it. Never really thought about this was my path forward. Um, I was working in corporate America, working for somebody, and I did that. And I was at a startup right after college, and then I was in I transitioned to automotive. So I was at Mercedes-Benz corporate, and then Rolls-Royce corporate, and then I transitioned to dealership side and was on the operations of dealership side. But yeah, I just never felt fulfilled, uh, because I always have, like, just going that hustle and grind mentality, and just always trying to make things better, always seeing what I can do, and always trying to go above and beyond what your peers are doing. But I never, obviously, financially, felt the reward. No, especially in corporate world, it's like no matter how hard you work, no matter if you work 60 hours, the person next to you is working 40. Just there's nothing wrong with that. Just the way they want to do it. because those are the rules. You just do abide by those rules, and that box fit into that box, and you get compensated accordingly. But if you decide to go above and beyond, it's not going to make me more money or get me more accolades or whatever, right? I mean, I guess sales would, but like I wasn't in those roles. I just felt, you know, I guess in a way underappreciated, undervalued, and just unmotivated, right? Because I set up systems for these people that's been there for 20, 25 years, you know, however, to help them out. But like then you realize that they're making so much more money than you, not because they're better than you, just because they've been there for 25, 30 years, you know? And I just didn't feel that was fair. Um, and I've always had the mindset that one day I'll do my own thing. I just didn't think this was going to be that. But yeah, I mean, it was, I was in LA and my dad was sick. And I felt that I needed to make a change. I tried the retail world. I wasn't necessarily overly happy. I mean, I was okay, but I just wasn't like, I don't think this is what I want to do for the next 10 years, 15 years. And also at the time, my dad was, like I said, he was battling cancer and he was, trying to decide what to do with the business because obviously he's already, of age and he was trying to decide if it's like he's going to sell it to an employee or sell it to a different company and just exit. But I always knew deep down that he never really wanted to exit in the sense of like just selling it to the highest bidder because he knew what that meant for his staff, right? Because he never started Yama Seafood for his own personal gains, right? He never did it. He just wanted the freedom to operate a business and do whatever he wanted because he left Japan because he didn't fit into the Japanese culture of like being a salaried man and working for somebody and just being someone's like slave, right? He just wanted to, if he wanted to give somebody a raise, he just did. Like he just made his own rules. That's always how he lived by. Even if it made no sense, that's what he always lived by. But I always knew that deep down, had he sold it to a publicly traded company in Japan that's always been sniffing, making inquiries to buy his business, he also knew that meant his tenured employees that dedicated their lives to him and the company. Um, it would change like that, right? Because then it just becomes spreadsheet and numbers. Oh, you're getting paid too much. Oh, you're of age, so like maybe maybe there's no position for you anymore. But what are you gonna do if you dedicated 40 years, 30 years of your life and you're already in your 60s? Like that means you're done. Like you're not gonna find anything else at that point in time, you know. So he also knew if you were to do that, take that path of just cashing out, which there's nothing wrong in cashing out, right? This is America, right? Yeah, yeah. But he also didn't want those people to be left on an island, forgotten, and just abandoned, And he's always focused with people, people, people. He didn't give any. He didn't care about sales, revenue, nothing. He just knew that if he had good people, sales, profitability would always follow, right? If you create good behaviors and good culture, everyone works for the common goal. The money will follow.
Well, that's how your dad was able to excel in a time with extreme competition in an area that was difficult to compete or essentially block because he focused on the people. You take care of your team takes care of your customers.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, he cared so little about numbers that, like, after he kind of took a step back and other people were running it, that's when kind of like profitability kind of grew. But whenever he operated, he never lost money though. That's the one thing that he's always proud of. That he never was in the red ever, even since day one. So
Yeah. And he built a beautiful business that he was able to pass on to the next generation, as well as, the families that he's also supported throughout the years. Or now the baton has been passed to you for the next generation that obviously has the same values and the people principles that your dad instilled in you and your siblings. So how do you maintain the same level of excellence and precision from customer to customer? You talked about the hello, the greetings, that connection point. Are there any other things that that you focus on with your customer interactions or in your service? Because you're a service business, even though you sell products. Are there any other things that you focus on or instill upon your groups?
I'm going to just try the little things, right? Just, that notification of certain things are not coming today. I mean, we're in the seafood business, right? There's always things that are just not coming in. We're also a logistics company, so it's like things get delayed, lost, damaged, stuck every single day, right? So how can we get ahead of it as much as possible to notify that, hey, your bluefin tuna, that 100 pound that you ordered for Wednesday, it's not coming because it's stuck in, there's a storm in Spain, so the flights aren't leaving. So like to get ahead of it versus like the day of the day of delivery after packing is done, when they receive delivery, they're like, my bad, your tuna didn't come today, even though you have a sushi counter and tuna is a main staple. So there's no offering. We could have offered yellowfin, big eye, or a different origin bluefin tuna as a substitute versus, you know, my bad, right? Which is so easy to do, you know, the bigger you get too, for sure, right? So, these are things that we try our best to be better at communicating, but yeah, just being a partner with our customers. If like I got a phone call today from one of my customers, hey, like I forgot to order, and this was like 9:30. All of our vans are already out on the road, and everything is done. My warehouse is just making boxes and prepping for tomorrow. And he's like, hey, I need 4 pieces of new king salmon and 1 piece of ocean trout, whatever. Do you have that? I was like, yeah, sure. So so we made it and we Ubered it for him, right? Of course, the customer pays for the Uber, but the answer isn't just simple no. It's like, yeah, sure, we got you. We'll help you. Even though you missed that line cut off.
The business coaches always say you don't say no, you say yes, and we can send that to you through Uber because he's got a business to run too. I always tell my clients that your vendors are an extension of your business. Without your vendors, you're also out of business.
Yeah, it's a partnership, right? So, let me help you when I can. And of course, like if we have a good relationship, I want to go above and beyond and help out, even if it's off hours, weekends. Of course, to an extent, right? You got to also respect each other's times and say, hey, we're closed on weekends, so don't make me open up my warehouse just because you forgot something, right? But if it's on me where my Friday delivery, somebody messed up and mispacked 1 piece of fluke, he ordered two and we only packed one, and you check the invoice, it's clearly a 1 piece weight, and they're a chef's table type service where they need that. It's on the menu. It goes to every single person, and that second piece missing from their kitchen is detrimental to their uh weekend coverage. Of course, you know yeah, I'm losing my shirt on it because not only from a time perspective, then I have to then go drive to the city, pay toll, blah blah blah, on an item that costs $30. Like I've already spent $30 just to get there, you know, and not yeah, and not only factoring in the 3 hours I have to put in to go open the warehouse, pack it, make the invoice, lock the warehouse up, go deliver it, and come back. Like yeah, on a weekend when I have a wife and 2 kids where you know we already work long enough days Monday through Friday where it's like 3 hours is a pretty long time to be out of. But it's on me, right? It's our fault. So we got to do right by our customers when we can. Or you try to work it out with the customers. If they're okay without it, then you just apologize and make sure it doesn't happen again. But we're all humans, right? So it happens. So understanding that, um, and trying to fix where you can, own up to it, and just be a partner. That's it. So of course, when they need you, and if there are times they need you on a weekend, I've done it, and it just didn't make any sense and took time out of it. But they're like, please, please, we have catering, we have a party, and whatever. Like, please help us out. But yeah, I mean, I will do my best to help. But of course, if you're a repeat person saying every weekend, can you open it up? I need this, I need that. It's like at a certain point, it's like, hey man, like, what days are your days off? Oh, Monday and Tuesday. Okay. Do you want me to call you on Tuesday, or do you want your boss to call you on Tuesday to come into work every single Tuesday because they missed scheduled your other chef to come in? Absolutely not, right? That your time off is valuable. So my time off is valuable. Let's just try to understand that and respect that, so that whether despite you not liking me say this, it's, at a certain point in time, it's like, you know, time for yourself is just as important as.
Yeah, you need time to recover to bring your whole self next week. So, Nobu, what does leadership look like in a business like yours of that's completely built on trust and quality?
I guess leadership, it's just, doing things that you would do and making sure that others do things that you do, and don't make people do things that you couldn't or wouldn't do, right? If that makes sense. Right. So it's, if you expect people to come early, then you're coming early. If you expect people to be able to learn every aspect of the business, you better know every aspect of the business, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, I believe in leadership, especially nowadays, is to put yourself in a position where you don't need to be there, right? A right leader, the team can execute everything without your presence, right? That means you've done your part to train people, find the right team to lead, even as simple as operationally, just to do it so you don't have any experts, right? The best leaders, in my opinion, are people that put themselves in a position where they are no longer needed. Other people don't believe in that, because that means you're putting your job at risk, right? Because if you're no longer the man that everybody needs, um, then you feel, some people, especially old school people, feel that now you're less valuable, which I completely disagree with, right? Like, historically, all my managers either never took Fridays off because that's our busiest day, or like I had one guy that would take Wednesdays off because that's the only day that he didn't get fresh shipment from Japan, you know. And we also didn't have anybody that could do his or her jobs. So the managers couldn't take time off, and there was a significant risk to the business, because then if that person were to quit, to get hit by a bus, whatever it is, then you're taking a significant risk for something that, it's not like you got to learn a different language or learn how to code or something that is highly specialized. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about like the vendor contact, how to communicate, how to put orders, how to put a price sheet together for market prices. Um, Whatever it is, everything was just so individualized, and one person can do these tasks. And it was fine when it's a 30, 40 person company and everybody's doing everything, right? But now, as we are now 80 something people, and we're obviously have done the first wave of transition to the next generation. Also, we can't expect that level of output, you know, that my parents' generation did. I mean, I still have a couple guys that go to DC, but they start in a warehouse on a Friday, especially if they go to DC. They start a warehouse at 1 in the morning, you know, and then they pack and then they leave, and they don't finish their last delivery until like 3 p.m., 4 p.m., and then they go to a hotel and sleep. Like, yeah, that's a long day. That's a two-person job, legitimately two-person job, or at least like 1.75 or something. You know, but to expect that level, that person for the next generation, it's just not happening.
Yeah, there's a different level of discipline than there once was.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, there are issues, like other issues with those people for sure, but like, to be like, yeah, every single week, once a week, without fail, to work, 12, 13, 14 hours a day. We're not just saying like on the computer or whatever, on the phone, whatever, literally physically in the freezer, physically delivering, physically driving, physically like have to be focused. Right, it's just a different level of exhaustion, and like frankly, I couldn't do it. Like I hate driving long distances, and I've done it. I've done like the morning 3 a.m. pack for home consumers, and go to the Hamptons, and come back at 7 8 p.m. at night. I've done that during COVID, and then it's,
Oh man, I'd rather drive to Canada than drive out to Long Island and back. That's harder.
oh my God, yeah, it was miserable. It got to a point where it's like, if I couldn't leave the Hamptons by 1 o'clock in the afternoon to get back to Jersey by 3 o'clock, like I would just stay there till 7 o'clock, just sleep on the side of the road, or hang out at a restaurant, or at a customer's place, or a friend's place, or go fishing, or whatever it is, and then come back at 9, 10 o'clock.
Yep, You get home at the same time.
Yeah, pretty much. It's, there's nothing worse than literally inching in front of Holland Tunnel to move, like 2 hours per block, right? It's miserable.
So that little comment puts me in the great segue for my next question for you is what challenges are you facing every day to make the quality level that you expect available for your customers?
I mean, the main challenge is always logistics, right? We're always fighting against the clock, so we got to make sure that starting from, going to JFK at, let's say, 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night to then picking up our items at Fulton Fish and make sure that comes back by a certain point in time to be able to pack that to leave the same day. Like, you have a small window. Once you miss that, then, even a half an hour delay can cause 3 hour delays, right? Because my 6 a.m. route, can do 30 deliveries with two people, right? But if that 6 a.m. turns into 6:30 a.m., then he can only probably do 25 deliveries, right? Um, but yeah, it's just fighting. It's fighting against the clock and fighting against consolidating hundreds of shipments every single day, and then being able to ship out hundreds of shipments every single day accurately, precisely, handled well, refrigerated, on ice, or frozen. Up and down these stairs. Yeah, I mean it's a shit show behind the scenes. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to curse or not, so I apologize. But yeah, it's behind the scenes. Sometimes it's just endless. Like so many problems. Like you open a box, it's not good. They cut a tuna, it's not good. We don't find a quality that we want. We keep cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting. It's just not good. And then we argue internally because sales rep wants this fish for this customer, but the same person wants it for the same customer, a different customer, and now you're fighting over that fish. Meanwhile, there's a lot of fish that's already cut. They need to figure out homes for, right? And it's it. And then every single customer wants new, 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 new. It's like there's harvest dates. It's you know, there's stuff that we have inventory. It's FIFO, first in, first out, right? But that world customers don't care about. They want the stuff that arrived today, shipped out today. And pre-ordered items, sure, of course. But certain items you carry inventory for, you can't just miraculously do that. Otherwise, you got to make sacrifices, right? And it's so hard because you're always working against the clock, even from a shelf life perspective. So it's like to be able to carry just enough inventory so you don't run out, you know, but don't over it, but not too much because then you don't want to carry or you want to sell degrading products either. And it's not like t-shirts or watches where it just can sit on the shelf or in a box and if it sells, it sells. The only thing that it costs you is, money, right? Where you're holding inventory and whatever if you have a line of credit or a loan against that. But for us, it's like the moment we bring it on, you're just fighting against the clock, right? You're just fighting against the clock constantly, constantly.
You're in one of the toughest segments of food. You're trying to provide the freshest seafood as fast as possible against all the things that you just mentioned.
Not only that, then you're dealing with like subjectivity. You're dealing with opinions of each individual chef, home consumers, right? Whether it's right or wrong, it's their opinion, right? So their opinion isn't wrong. So we have to match their opinion to the quality of the color, the texture, the fat content of the each individual product. Otherwise, they may not like it, and they may just say return, right? And then to return that, it's like I mean, I know a lot of our competitors just say, all right, throw it away, whatever that means. That means it's just make it a family meal and eat it. For me, that means like, oh, if you want to return it, then I'm going to physically pick it up. Like, you're not going to keep that and eat that, eat it for family or yourself. No, if I'm going to lose money on it, then I'd rather eat it myself or my staff, make it our own family meal. Or, hopefully you're just so picky I can repurpose it and sell to a different customer. They're completely happy with it, right? Especially in tuna, it happens all the time where a chef's like, "This isn't good. I want to return." Okay, you can still sell that same fish to someone next door, a couple doors down. Oh yeah, I need 15 more pounds. Sure, no problem. I'll bring it to you right now. And they're completely happy with it. Oh, thank you so much. It was amazing. Versus the other guy that's like, it's not good enough.
Yeah. I could tell you stories of that in the beauty industry with interpretations on Monday versus Wednesday of the same thing. It's like that. Your customers are just as picky as every customer out there, and some are, individuals have their own day. Uh, So you've been doing this a while now. How many years have you been running?
I've been running Yama for, well, I've been running Yama for 3 years now. I've been working for over 7 years. So I guess that compared to the people that's there, I'm still a newbie, but yeah, almost a decade, not quite there.
At almost a decade at Yama, what role does innovation play in preserving and sharing the legacy products like bluefin tuna? Because I see your Instagram feeds all the time. You're not just promoting yourselves, you're promoting the industry of seafood.
Yeah, I mean, I think, seafood is so new to America still, where it's still not the level of understanding or acceptance compared to like your chicken and steak, right? So it's just, I think my job is educating the consumers of every aspect of tuna, even chefs, right? Just teaching them, some chefs you still send them certain things and they just have no idea what you sent them. So then they just want to return it because they don't know what it is, because that culture just doesn't exist. Or is just the culture is so brand new to them. Even seeing bluefin tuna when they're only using yellowfin, when they see it, they're like, "Oh, why is it this color? Why is it pink?" Well, there's fat in bluefin tuna, right? Oh, but yellowfin tuna, this tuna that I always get, this ahi I get is always so red. It's like, yeah, there is no fat in yellowfin tuna. But yeah, it's just trying to bring up the level of knowledge to the same level and acceptability as like steak, right? That takes decades and decades. I get it, because people still eat way more meat than seafood. But I think the culture is shifting. Where I just had lunch with one of my vendors, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm a pescatarian." Okay, I don't eat meat, and I think more of that is happening as we speak. And I think fish is very healthy. Um, Provides a lot of health benefits to you. So I think the world is changing, and our job is like my job for my business, and I think what I'm trying to do is create more of a brand and brand awareness that if you see Yama Seafood as part of whatever we're selling, tuna, salmon, whatever, king salmon, whatever it may be, it's just you automatically have that trust because it's affiliated with us. It's our brand, it's our product. I love to get to a point where people want to go to a restaurant or decide to make that decision to go to a restaurant. When you ask, oh yeah, because I see Yama was on the menu of restaurant X, Y, and Z. That's why I decided to go here. Not because of a Yelp review or not because of this and that. It's because they recognize the brand, they trust it automatically. I want to create enough value for restaurants to work with us, right? Because then, if once you do that, then you're kind of like not fighting for pennies and not fighting for commodities and transaction. Now you're fighting. Now you're just you have the brand recognition and that trust that people have in you so that the customers of restaurants that you work with automatically want to work with you, right? Yeah, and it's not like I can supply everybody. I love to really get to a point where there's so much demand that we can't supply everybody that there's a wait list. Like that's unheard of in this world, right? But like I would love that to happen. That would be the day.
I talk about to my client base all the time something just like that, what you were just talking about. And I tell them, like, you need to remember that your supply chain is an extension of your business. They're a partner, they're part of your organization, whether you realize it or not. Remember, at the end of the game, they need to be profitable. You can't beat them up 10 ways to Sunday and expect them to sell you things for cost or for less than cost, because if there's no money left for them to be able to afford to service you, the level of quality of your business is going to begin to suffer, because it it takes money to do these services. It's not free. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean that cost doesn't exist. Treat your suppliers like an extension of your business. Have the relationship understanding both of us need to come out of this in the green. I want a high level of quality from you, and I'm willing to pay you a fair price for it, but I expect it consistently. And then that's an agreement. We work together. We're not because if you go after the cheapest vendor, you're going to follow one of my favorite guys in the world, Dr. Joseph Deming. His fourth point is my favorite, and I promote it constantly, is never make purchasing decisions based on purchase price alone. Always take into factor the total overall cost of what that part is for your business. You may save 50 cents, but then it costs you $2 in quality issues or thousands of dollars or a lost sale because you wanted to save a nickel a part. It's a relationship is more than just about the product. It's about the partnership that both your chefs working with you, understanding they're not getting the cheapest seafood, but every time they order it, they know what they're getting, and there's no question about it. That level of trust. If this is why your brand brings value, because I know when I put my faith in you, I'm not going to be disappointed. And if it might be disappointing, you let me know. Hey, it's not looking good today. What do you want to do in place of it? Because I can't stand behind this. And that's a level of commitment that not all vendors will provide. So, Nobu, where do you see Yama Seafood in the next 5 to 10 years?
My, if I have a magic wand, if I have my wish list all come true, then yeah, I mean, you know, I just told this to my team, but my hope, my dream is um, to be on menus. Like I said, it's that our brand has enough value and recognizable where, we are on menus of restaurants. You know, that's it's. It may sound silly in a sense, you know, it's not because I want to be famous. It's not because anything other than the fact that if there's enough value to say Yama Seafood, bluefin tuna, yellowfin tuna from Spain, whatever, right? To be able to put that brand forward. Because if you look at seafood right now in restaurants, even the highest quality restaurants, omakase counters. I was at the corner store yesterday. Um, Impossible place to get a reservation. I got there 5 minutes, 10 minutes early, and there's 50 people waiting, and they're not even. They're just trying to get in or trying to get on the wait list, which just you don't even know until you walk in, and they're like they out of 50 people, I think they allowed 2 people to be on a wait list, and 2 people to walk in, and everybody else is just like, sorry, come back tomorrow. I'm like, wow. But anyways, you go check out the menu. Very simple menu. It's like 10 food items. The only brand seafood that they have was Ora King. That's it. It was bluefin tuna that we sell to them, right? But there's no Yama Seafood bluefin tuna or, our farm partner Balfago. It was just bluefin tuna. It was Dover sole. But Ora King was the only thing that had their name was on the menu, and they're the only seafood brand as of right now, at least from my knowledge, where it's on menus. Everything else is just the species, the name of the item, right? Dover sole, fluke, ahi tuna, big eye tuna, bluefin tuna, salmon, Scottish salmon, Faroe Island salmon, whatever it is. It's just origin and the name, right? Ora King is the only one. Even there's other 3 or 4 other King Salmon brand, New Zealand King Salmon brand out there, but you don't hear Big Glory Bay, you don't hear Mount Cook Alpine Salmon, you don't hear, yeah, you don't hear. I mean, yeah, Baka Frost maybe a little bit you see here and there, but that's it. Like I said, I would love for restaurants to be like Yama Seafood, salmon, Yama Seafood, tuna, Yama Seafood, whatever it is. I don't know, but like that means that you've done your job to create value to the consumers.
Yeah, and that level of ultimate trust that that brand represents, the highest of your expectations, and that's what you'll get. So, Nobu, what advice would you give to leaders in any industry about balancing the heritage of the family business that they've taken over with innovation and dealing with, because as the years go by and the world changes, the old becomes the new, whether it likes it or not, because this one certain thing in the world is constant change. So, what advice would you give to those leaders in family businesses? Maybe even when before you took over the family business and other families that have that. My dad's running this business. Do I want to make this transition or do I want to go a different direction?
Yeah, I mean it's a loaded question. But
I could rephrase it as like, if you could talk to your younger self, what would you say to the younger Nobu?
well, I mean for any leaders out there, I think especially when you're taking on a family business. I mean, first of all, this was never given to me or never promised anything other than the fact that I may be able to buy equity in the business. Didn't mean that I was going to be the president, CEO, or chairman, anything. It just meant that I could own a piece of the business. just because you own the piece of business that I buy doesn't mean you're gonna run the business. Those are two separate things, right? Just because you have the last name doesn't give you the right to tell people what to do or how to do things. You got to earn that, right? Um, but I think the biggest thing I was always conscious was the old and the new, right? It's how to get I guess the biggest struggle I always had was how do I get these people that are my dad's generation or slightly younger than my dad that see me literally when my mom was pregnant to then coming, 20 something years later, 28 years later, working in the company to then becoming their boss, right? To be like, how do I get acceptance from them when they see me, as a baby, right? As a kid growing up, just not as Chacho, which means president, just as Nobu, right? Nobu-kun, especially in Japanese, you put kun and son, right? Kun is what you say to your kid's friends or something like that, right? Or someone younger than you, right? Um, so when I came in, I was Nobu-kun, right? To all those people that were, my parents' age or a little bit younger, I came in, Nobu-kun, hey, Nobu-kun, hey, good to see you, whatever, right? I was just kun, right? Then when I was named director and then a president, those people are still calling me kun, right? And like I said, to me personally, I don't really care. Um, but then my dad walks in one day and he sees this happening, like one of my admin front desk saying Nobu-kun, Kaicho's here, whatever. And then he looks at me, he's like, he sits me down and he's like, if a Japanese executive were to walk in and see that your front office is calling you Nobu-kun, right, when you're the president, like they're just gonna dismiss you and laugh at you, right? Automatically assume you don't know what you're doing, you don't have the respect of other people, of your people. Um, they don't respect you, this and that, right? It's just, I mean, culturally speaking, it's a big no-no. Public, like I said, privately, we both don't care about that. It doesn't really matter, but those are the changes that we have to make. But I always, sorry, kind of going off track, but I always felt like I needed to prove myself to the older generation because to show that hey, I didn't, I I'm meant to be here. I deserve to be here. You're not deserve, but I earn to be. I'm trying to earn my spot to be here, right? I'm not just trying to come in and just kick my feet up and just collect dividend because I have the last name. Right? That's the part I certainly struggled with up until maybe like to accept and admit that I've done enough. Literally, like maybe up until a year ago, where I was always like, I need to do more. I need to work longer. I need to work faster. I need to be stronger. I need to be smarter. I gotta be I gotta prove myself day in and day out every single day, even though we survived COVID. We came back stronger than ever than COVID. Our business has almost doubled in size since the best days pre-pandemic. Everyone's making a lot more money. We're providing more benefits. We're trying to have a better work-life balance as a company as a whole. Um, besides myself, um, you know, but I always had a hard time accepting that I've done enough. And like I said, I don't think enough is the right word, but like to prove that I deserve to be here. I've at the very least um, did what I needed to do to prove myself. I guess you can say. But to any people that are trying to take on a family business is be conscious of that, but don't let that be your only focus, because then that comes at a cost, right? But also at the same time, take the good out of the old generation, the way that things are done. Don't fix what's not broken, but then improve by if there's opportunities technologically to make things better, more efficient. um like I said before, in 2019 we were still a pen and paper and fax machine company. That's the way we operated our orders, right? We didn't have any, all my customer service team would write down handwritten fax orders. I'd have a guy come in at 10 p.m. and just consolidate all these faxes, copy and paste onto an order sheet, and then would take 4 hours printing it out. And then it wouldn't have any tally sheet or totals. So then I would have guys come in an hour early just so they can take the tally of what's going out today, and also make a label that now a label maker can print out. And to, from even people in our industry, that's been digitized for decades. But for us, it was just kind of like, that's just the way we've been doing it for 50 years.
You'd be surprised some stuff out there that people are still doing to this day.
I know, but like the bigger companies, it's like they've been using label makers and ERP softwares rather than QuickBooks for decades before us, right? But yeah, that's just the only way they do. No one ever questioned why or how, or is there a better way, a smarter way, a more efficient way, And yeah, I mean, that has allowed us to grow significantly, because otherwise it would just been a huge bottleneck, or we had everyone have to start at midnight, and then it would take 2-3 hours just to then be able to get onto the warehouse floor. Now it's just, we have a guy comes in an hour before everybody, does print out all the pick sheets, the labels. So then all those guys that normally then I would have to tally it up and then hand write the labels of the name of the restaurant, the route it's on, the item, the pack count, whatever. And then take Scotch tape to tape on piece of tray of uni, whatever it is, like all that work. So now it's, if that computer system goes down and we have to handwrite stuff, we get like a mutiny. It is so funny how things have changed.
Yeah, you can go forward, but you can never go backwards.
Yeah, it's funny because like when we were starting, it was like, oh, how could you do this? This is so different. I can't read the order sheet anymore. I can't see the whole order for the entire all different sections on one piece of paper. It's so hard to read. It's so hard to do this. Blah blah blah. Like I can list all the issues that we had, that people had. But now it's kind of like, oh my god, I can't input orders. Oh my god, like the label printer isn't working, so you got to handwrite it. Oh, how can I do that? How can we do this? Like I say, it was literally, since pre-pandemic to now, we've added like maybe 8 people, but our revenue has grown 80%. So it's like, sure, we were over hiring back then just to prepare for the generational changeover, which when expedited because of COVID. But yeah, I just, like I said, the suggestion I would have for the new leaders, the new second generation, third generation that are coming on board, is just think about ways to incorporate, new technology or just technology in general, but also be conscious of those that are going to use it, so that you have to, you're going to have to do some extreme hand holding. What's normal for you isn't normal for someone your parents' generation, right? To be like, how, you're just used to pen and paper, to now all of a sudden you got to learn how to use a software that you never used before, that you're still learning yourself. So that, don't just like be like, just throw it at them if they figure it out. It's like, you got to be there with them, teach them, understand their frustrations, and then figure out ways to, you know, I guess, make it work for them. Hold their hand a little bit. Go out of your way to make sure they're okay and that they're adapting, because that matters. Otherwise, they're just gonna think like, oh, look at this kid just like thinking it's easy and just doesn't know this business, and just implementing these changes. Like it's like a private equity firm, right? Comes in, buys a business, and then just you know changes everything, changes the whole system, personnel, blah 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 blah, and just look at the numbers. Like this is the way it needs to be done. First is like understanding that people have feelings, thoughts, emotions, and to kind of just be able to be like, I hear you, I understand you, um, but this is the path forward. So how do we get there gradually, not just like jump all of a sudden?
Absolutely. Failure to adopt technology is one of its main root causes of failure. It's not the technology, it's the lack of adoption. You put it there and people refuse to use it. I see it all the time in factories. The new machine, that's the best thing since sliced bread. No one wants to touch it. They want to use the old raggedy machine. You're like, but why? Well, they're afraid of it because, sometimes technology is implemented in a not in a vacuum where it's assumed that it'll be adopted. But it's good that you had that consciousness that it isn't just about what's right for the business. This is how do we have people understand that it's right for them too. So thank you so much, Nobu, for sharing your journey and the journey of Yama Seafood. It's such an amazing story, and I'm glad we got an opportunity for you to share that with us. And I'd also like to highlight the importance of with us businesses in America like yours and the second, thirds, and fourths constitute the majority of jobs here in America, and that's an amazing thing to see. That America's still we're in manufacturing, whether people realize it or not. It isn't coming back. It's always been here. It's growing, that's for sure. And I'd invite all our listeners to follow us on Spotify and on YouTube under ECIC TV. And again, thank you, Nobu, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate your time today.